Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Resource Gatherer. I'm your host, Justin, with my co-hosts, Shaizon and Cody. Again, we're the triplets are back. We all of us look very, very the same.
The triplets.
For our audience, with only audio, we clearly all have the exact same face. Shaizon hasn't mentioned that he's black and clearly white.
I don't know who, some sperm mixed in. I don't know what happened.
Someone's mom lied to them.
Right.
But regardless, we haven't done the DNA test, but we're all considered brothers anyways. But you know what? We'll find out one day on that 23andMe.
Yeah. Sooner or later. I was just born a little late. That's what it was.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we were all.
Make me feel like grandpa over here.
So on that note, we're gonna talk about interesting topics, sort of diving in from last week. We're talking about TV and we're talking about things that inspired us. This week we're gonna talk about retro television. In retrospect. We were just talking about how Adventure Time came out roughly over a decade now.
Yeah, which is ridiculous because
I guess technically that's considered retro television.
Yeah.
So
almost the shit.
So we'll be talking about all of our favorite retro pieces in this week's episode of the Resource Gatherer. So I'll dive into the first question for us, guys. All right, so name the weirdest niche show that you can think of from a retro time period.
Damn, I have a really good one that I know you guys won't know of.
Okay, let's hear it.
It's Class of 3000.
I know Class of 3000.
that one.
You guys remember that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Every time I talk to them, they're like, I don't remember that. I'm
Bro,
like, how?
That was a weird.
That was
Andre 3000. Yeah, he made a cartoon show. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a weird one.
See,
I remember
that was like Static Shock era. Though.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
Yeah.
Static Shock was the shit. Damn, you.
Yeah, that was a cool one, man. I did remember watching it. What
Dude,
was that? Like Saturday morning, like WB.
Kid,
Yeah, so Kids WB definitely slapped. So one of the ones that was one of my favorites from Kids WB, Shaolin Showdown.
Shaolin Showdown. That was cool.
Oh, bro,
that was a cool one.
Okay, so we were talking about magic systems last week. Shaolin Showdown is this show. For anyone who hasn't seen it, go watch it right now. It's essentially this show where there's these 4 kids. They're monks. They are going to protect the world by collecting these magical items called Shingang Wu.
Did the guy have a Krillin head?
Yeah.
With 6
Yeah.
dots. Yeah, so they did a remake. It was terrible. They needed to bring back the original artist to redo it because the first 4 seasons were fucking fire. But anyways, Omi was the main character. That's the guy. That was the Kremlin looking motherfucker. He had water elemental, and then each one had a different elemental, and it really showcased their different abilities. But then all the Shingang Wu, which are these basically magical artifacts. So we go back to D&D style.
Yeah, but they were the goofy, weird off ones.
Yeah, so
some of the stuff you're looking at, it's the tiny chopsticks.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
click them and you get really small.
But that would actually be a really dope D&D world because it's imagine you're just a normal dude. We're all normal adventuring people, and magic only exists through magical items. So you have to go and fight people for it. And then what they did was they'd fight people in these competitions, and then they would wager their magical item against each other. And if you won, you got all 3. So that was how, and then it was a competition for basically Pokemon.
Yeah.
Collect them all.
Okay, that's actually cool. It's that's really cool actually.
So, but that wasn't the retro one I was going to bring up. So Cody, we'll let you talk about yours next.
Oh man, dude, me and one of my best friends, Bo, we used to wake up early and we would watch Mega Man. Not the video game, precursor, not so much the video games. The original ones came out, and then they made the show to kind of get people re-energized and stuff. It came out before X. Because there is an episode in there where Mega Man X, as a future generation one of them, comes in.
I feel like I remember that one. Yeah,
dude, it's a while, and you watch it, you're like, dude, this is so cool. Just everything, because it comes back and it shows that Gutsman. Everyone knows who Gutsman, the big bulky guy that just punches everything. He was actually designed to be a good guy in the original ones before Dr. Wily stole him, and him with Cutman and other stuff like that. Because all those robots were originally supposed to be helpers. Cutman was supposed to be a master lumberer essentially for woodworking stuff.
But that was
I didn't even know Mega Man had this much lore.
Oh yeah, dude.
Well, the thing is 90s television. You had a 90s Sonic television show. So basically, all your big name
I remember Sonic X.
and they had Super Mario Bros. Was a huge one during the 90s.
They had
too.
3 of those.
Yeah.
It was 3 different
Mario.
spin-offs.
But it was
of them.
the live action dudes, and then it would cut to the anime. So the one I'm going to talk about is one from Nickelodeon for all of those now. It's Action Leagues Now. It was essentially this really, really weird show. I have no idea what's still imprinted in my brain, where it's action figures. They had a Barbie doll and this dude who was basically He-Man, but they changed his look, so he was like a WWE wrestler. And he's just like, and they would like have like these really really interactive like gameplays. So imagine it as being like you're playing with your toys, and they're all like,
you're just like watching,
and you're like watching.
It was like a precursor to Robot Chicken almost.
Yes, and so that really like I think that like dived into that live action like stop motion style animation.
Which people find entertaining because they're like, oh, it'd be like my toys coming to life and stuff like that, you know, which was cool and everything. But like, I don't know, man, like some of this stuff, like, because like the early morning cartoons, because, you know, sometimes kids can't sleep. They wake up early, you know, and they're watching, you know, junk like that on TV, which is fine because I enjoyed it, you know, like watching
Captain Planet coming on at 4:30 in the morning, East
Captain
Coast.
Planet or Sailor Moon.
Oh my, and then Inuyasha would always be on at 5.
I do remember Inuyasha a lot.
Yeah,
a lot for some reason.
So that was the end of the Adult Swim segment. So Adult Swim would end, and the first show that would come on would be Inuyasha, starting the day after Adult Swim would end, because you get your
every time.
So every Saturday you get your Adult Swim like preview. So you get your like DBZ like peak. This was DBZ like Trigun.
They had what, Toonami?
Yu Yu Hakusho, Gundam. Oh my god, dude, I loved Gundam.
Dude, Gundam was one of the coolest shows ever, like the mech suit thing and everything like that. Like, and that's
Zoids was like a real big spin-off of Gundams.
Yeah, I heard Zoids before. Yeah.
Well, I think
because there's 2 different sets. There's the one that's like the battle arc, which was the one that was like on Toonami, where they had like all the different things. But then if you go to the original Zoids, where it was like a big like global war going on, and it was like a crazy like storyline and stuff like that. It wasn't just like a battle arc. It was like, oh my god, like these are like real things. Like, you know, it was absolutely wild comparatively.
The problem with Zoids in comparison to Gundam is that if you're a die-hard like 2D animation style person, you would hate Zoids because it was that 3D 2D mix, and so all the Zoids were like 3D. So like for example, Dinosaur King was like a very similar to that. That was on like 4Kids. That was like the second generation.
It'd be like 2D and then switch.
Yeah,
to
like it was like if they
3D during that. It was rough.
Oh, dude, well, it's just I hate that transition style of like the early 2000s where they are like, oh, everything needs to be 3D because did you see the sales for Toy Story?
Like, come on.
Like, bro, chill out. All right, listen, we all like 2D animation. I don't know, man. I think if we're looking at like retro TV that was like really just like hit it home, besides Shaolin Showdown, because again that was one of my favorites. I don't know. I think if we go back to like we were talking about this outside.
Justice League, the Justice League Unlimited was the shit.
Yeah, I would say so.
That was so mature.
Ben 10 was like peak. That was like 10 to 11. That was like peak time frame where I was like super excited because it was just like, okay, this is super different. It looked anime, but it wasn't, and like that was like. I think really when you started seeing the strive of like that anime American style, like Teen Titans was peak during that time frame. Then we got like Static Shock and that superhero style, which was like Justice League, a 2D.
They had that very like serious, which was strange because like even Static Shock had like these very serious, serious themes,
like literally talking about guns and stuff like that.
Yes.
That was important.
He literally went
like,
into like his white friend's house, and his dad's racist.
Yeah,
like,
he had to fight racism.
He's just like, this is.
He's
I mean,
I can't come up
good. Like,
but even in Justice League, it'd be like there's like characters sleeping around and stuff, and you're just like when I watch it now,
John
I'm like,
and Hawk.
Yes, I'm just like,
Hawk
what
Girl,
is going on? I'm like, but like as a kid, I feel like I was just like, oh, that's cool, you know?
All the things you just bypass, like Batman was definitely
but it made me so much
with Diana
in a way. Yeah.
She was just like, insane. he's like sleeping with a team would ruin team dynamics, and Diana's like, bro, let me hit.
Yeah, literally, Batman was trying to teach us HR things. That's what it is. Yeah.
But I mean, like, you know, and for you guys, like, you know, because I'm couple years older than you guys, you know, like I'm 33, by the way. Don't let the beard fool you.
He's
I'm not
old.
like, you know, 55 or nothing over here.
Sorry.
But like I remember being a kid, like, you know, like 6:30, 7 o'clock, like I'm getting ready for school and stuff like that. I'm waiting for the bus, and like Beast Wars would come.
Oh, bro, I remember Beast Wars,
which was a spin-off of Transformers. They were the animals instead, you know, which was like super cool, and it was that 3D animation, you know. So it's like, okay, like this is pretty cool. But then like you go back a little bit further to like the stuff that like my dad grew up on, my uncle grew up on. Like, you know, I watched. Was it Thundercats?
Oh, dude.
He-Man.
Yeah. I grew up with Thundercats
2010.
Yeah, 2010.
Bro, but that one slapped so good. And the new He-Man.
It was good up until a point where they like made like all the love triangle shit.
Well, so it's like what is it, She-Ra or whatever? Like She-Ra was really good too.
And also they made the one guy's like love interest in the original, which I didn't know this until like years later. But apparently weird cartoon people, because some people in cartoons should be fired, but apparently the love interest, they aged her down, which I was like, that's super weird.
Okay, well, the other thing too is that He-Man drew in a lot of, especially that animation style, drew in a very specific community of the anime population. They're the same people who liked that like Fox or like the Wolf and Bunny one on Netflix.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's we all know what type of people I'm discussing right now, but you know, nothing against you, no shame here. You know, no shame in here, but you know, it's your life. But
you do get drawn into different things, like you know, like there are certain like aspects that will pull people towards.
I will say that our childhood exposures definitely create our kinks as an adult. Because, like, for example, definitely, like, goth girls were, like, a huge thing.
And now they're big.
Yeah, like, Raven was like, okay, yep.
Yeah.
Then we went into, what is it, the show...
I'm more of a Starfire guy.
Yeah, she's bubbly. I see it.
She was annoying. She was annoying as hell to me, man. I was
She's sometimes, yes. I am something, so I'll be like, all right.
Yeah, I'd be like, yeah, you need to calm down.
What was that show? It was the show where it was like they were at the camp, but they were like doing like a Survivor, like you know what I'm talking about?
Total Drama Island.
Total Drama Island.
Yeah,
like
Gwen.
then they had Gwen on there too, and I was like, okay, because that was what I thought was really cool about Cartoon Network during that era was like they were trying to market to a different group,
so much,
where it was like we're no longer marketing to just little kids, which is like your SpongeBob's, your Gumballs, whatever,
and we're everybody,
and we were trying to like market to an older group, so they gave us Total Drama Island, which was like. I mean, they sold that thing directly into the ground because, and now it's like,
I think that show made me like Mean Girls. Weirdly enough, yeah.
Well, then now it's a meme. It's back now. They're like babied version, like they did what they did to Looney Tunes with like the baby version of the Looney Tunes back in the '90s. Which I mean,
everything had a baby version of it in the '90s.
It was like
y'all just made me think of Looney Tunes, like 2012, I think. So good. It was so good.
Yeah, it was good.
Oh my god, I love that one.
That one was
it was so mature.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking about all these old cartoons are so mature.
I mean, but like some of the things that we do, I mean, like you watch some of these old schools, they get these reboots and stuff like that. Like we were talking about the WB thing, you know, like and they had some of the best lineups. Like I remember getting up, like I sleep in, man. Like I am not a morning person, but I would get up.
American Dragon.
Oh, American Dragon. The Jackie Chan Adventures.
Bro, that was another one where I was like, when you're talking about world building, when you're talking about magic systems, like the fact that Jackie Chan had 12 different abilities and you can get one of these talismans, like 100%. I was like, bro, that's like their whole generation of anime was.
Yes. If you need a way to make your monk better, do stuff like that.
100%.
Monks are ass.
They're not ass. The problem is
they just punch.
Yes.
The problem is that you aren't utilizing the stunning strike enough because they don't always work. So monks are really great at taking out one opponent.
Yeah.
But in D&D, as we talked about in one of the previous episodes, Cody mentioned how it's sometimes better to use a bunch of models because in D&D 5e, the strategy is a bunch of different stuff and having a bunch of different attacks is going to be better than having just one big bad. Every time I've thrown one big bad at everybody, they kill it on like turn 2. Yeah. And then if I give them like 8 or 9 little things that I think that would probably not kill them, if they have to make any sort of saves, automatically the party's gonna fucking get murdered. Like what was it? Like the 3 of us were playing a game, and literally like we had to make one save to get a wisdom save, and I think
10. 10. We couldn't do it.
There's 4 of us, mind you. I'm playing a cleric in this campaign, have like a +5 to my save. Literally, I'm like got a 3. I was like, bitch.
Yep. Oh, absolutely.
That was upsetting. Yeah.
But then even like, and it was smart because like WB did their stuff for a while, you know, for Warner Brothers. Cartoon Network had their like more adult, like edgy type stuff, like with Justice League, different things. So even Nickelodeon went that route. Invader Zim.
I was about to say, so that was the next thing I was. So
Invader Zim,
which is
Danny Phantom.
Which, if you look at Invader Zim, like the content that dude creates outside of Invader Zim, I don't know if you guys are familiar with his work.
I think I've seen a little
Johnny
bit of
the Hanasanomaniac, Squee. If you don't know what those are, if you are under a certain age and you don't like blood and gore, do not look them up. They are wild. They make Invader Zim look like
tame,
like juice box
really?
material.
I haven't seen that stuff.
Oh no, it's like, so Johnny the Hanasanomaniac is this comic book created by the creator who did it, and he like made this stuff, and they're like, yeah, we really like your style. We'd love for you to make a children's show. And he's
That's
like,
crazy.
And so they approached him after the WB and the success that Cartoon Network was having. They're like, yeah, why don't you come and make this show? And he did Invader Zim. time, and that's why it's like really, really dark. Like it does not match any of the other stuff that came out during that.
But it was so popular.
But the thing was, is because a lot of times, because Nickelodeon wasn't willing to take up these risks, a lot of people went to other studios first. For example, and then it kind of swapped back and forth. For example, Adventure Time, the guy who created Adventure Time went to Nickelodeon first, trying to sell it, thinking it would do better on their platform. They dropped the ball on it, and it was probably
there was a chick who made it though, right?
No, it's a guy.
Oh, really?
It's it's like he does a lot of comics and stuff too. It's like Penelope, whatever his last name is. You see it in the opening. And then obviously you have like this era of people where they're like, I do really weird stuff outside of this.
But they make this children's thing that's really good.
Like what was the other one? The regular show?
Regular show was
and that was a funny one. Like I remember I was in the military at that time. Like like I'm like in my 20s.
Regular show is not no kids show.
But that was because it was made for early 20 dudes.
That's like workaholics type of humor.
Oh, dude, workaholics.
Workaholics. Yeah, but the regular show was I love that show so much.
I still reference it to this day.
It's so good.
Not taking the trash out today.
Right?
Or what was it? The Death Punch?
Yeah. The Death Punch.
Oh, no punchies.
Brad and the ducks forming into like one giant duck man and just god.
But even like when we go back towards like those retro cartoons that we grew up on and stuff like that, like one of the big things, like I remember getting VHS tapes. Yes, I know I'm 1,000 years old.
Listen, I had VHS tapes too.
I actually had a little bit of those.
A little bit. You're so cute.
I dabbled.
We had a whole supply of all the Disney movies and stuff on VHS, and then DVD came out, and like my like my aunt had it, and my mom was like, okay, well we're gonna like go to Blockbuster and we're gonna go rent the movies, and so we lived on base and we go to Blockbuster, like, and I would go and I get to pick out my shows. And it was the most exciting time because that's whenever like they just transferred over to DVDs. Yeah.
I remember that shit.
And it was so hard to get all of the anime because anime was huge at the time. Like,
so people would take
so like people with kids would take it and watch like DBZ and it'd be like gone. But then the thing is that outside of like certain groups, a lot of the anime, like if you go into like the early 2000s, like 2009, Netflix was probably like chef's kiss. And the reason why is because they had access to all of the anime that is popular on like
100%.
4 or 5 different platforms.
I watched so many different anime.
Yeah, I got access to like Gunslinger. I got access.
Gurren
Lagann was like
that shit really. Netflix put me on,
bro. Like 100%. Like some of the best anime from that era was like I was like, this is how I got access to just.
And I wish they would bring back more like the classic like original stuff for like older people like me and stuff, because like one of my favorite shows, Ninja Turtles, man. Go back and watch like the OG Ninja Turtles and stuff like that, like back when it was on TV, like because like the new one they did on Nickelodeon where they're like almost claymation things, like it's the same story, but I'm like it's just not the same.
No, 2000 or early 2000s TNMT though, that slapped, and then they went and they did the future one where they went into the future. And they had like the whole Usagi.
See, I feel like I was a fan, but like I don't know if I was ever that huge of a fan of like the Ninja.
Here's a good one to bring up. How do you guys feel about crossovers?
I actually loved crossovers.
Yeah, as a kid, I loved them. Now I don't know.
So you watch them, you're like,
no. So I think one of the coolest ones, and it's still to this day. I didn't know this at the time. The Jimmy Neutron, Timmy Turner crossover.
Oh, that was a good one. I remember that.
So the first one that happened was absolute. But the thing was, I didn't know that Dan Harmon or Danny, Dan whatever his last name is.
Yeah, Harmon.
No, Dan Harmon is the guy who did
Butch Hartman.
Butch Hartman, yes. Yeah. I was like Dan Harmon is what is it? Fucking Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
Yes, Butch Harmon created both of those shows. He also did like a bunch of like the 90s, the 2000s era like animation. He did Danny Phantom, which was Fairly Odd Parents.
Dude, Fairly Odd Parents is awesome, man. Cosmo's like, goat, man. I don't care what anybody says. That is the best character I've ever seen in my entire life.
That's hilarious.
I quote that stupid, the 3 different types of we. Like, what kind of we is it? Like, we the people, we the bathroom, or my personal favorite, we.
I always think that, and I think it made sense that in the crossover, him and Sheen got along so well because they were basically the same person.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then Wanda is basically just like the angry. Like, why were the moms always angry?
Yeah,
Our moms were always yelling at us when we were kids, man. Clean up your room, do this, do
Because
that.
Wanda and Jimmy's mom. No, Jimmy's mom was like really nice. Like Cindy's person.
Yeah.
Like everybody hated Cindy, and then when Timmy got with her, we're like, bro, Timmy.
Yeah.
So so I think crossover wise, that was really good. I think what is it? We were talking about
Ben 10 and Generator X.
Yeah, Generator
That was actually really good too.
I liked that one. I think Static Shock in Justice League.
Yes.
That was dope.
I mean, that one just makes sense.
Yeah. I think what was it?
Batman Beyond.
Oh yeah.
That one was nuts. Like, so like
Right.
one, I love Will Friedle. Like he did the voice of
Yes.
of Batman Beyond. Terry.
Terry McGinnis.
Yeah, he was the voice of him, and Will Friedle is a phenomenal actor. He did Ron Stoppable from Kim Possible.
Oh, was he?
He was in
Yeah.
Boy Meets World, which
Kim
is a show I
Possible,
watched on the Friday night lineup. Hit like if you know what the hell that is. 'Cause,
Right.
He's about old as I am.
Yeah.
We don't
But
get
I
any
mean-
views of the long form, unfortunately.
Well,
We get like 0 views on that. I have to put it on the social and be like, all right, we're gonna get this clip just for the old
Right.
people.
They say, huh?
But like I'll tell you, one of the first crossovers I ever remember watching as a kid was Power Rangers and the Ninja Turtles.
Ooh.
What?
Yes. So in Japan, that was really popular. Also, all the Power Ranger crossovers where they did like the multiple generations.
Mhm. Those were cool. Like I've watched the highlights and stuff like that. Like
That's not really
We
a
were talking
crossover,
about
though. you know?
we were talking about one where it was on Boomerang. It was all of the old school like Hanna-Barbera characters, and they were in this racing show where they
Wacky Racers.
Wacky Racers, where it was like literally like all of these like they had like Batman and they had like El Kabong, and they're all racing in this and like Scooby Doo mystery gangs in it.
Yeah, they had the van.
Or like, because I think that was really where like I felt like it started was Scooby Doo did a lot of crossovers.
Yeah, Scooby Doo did so many.
Because
Yeah.
Scooby Doo was so
It
popular.
still is till this day.
Yeah, it's-
strangely enough.
I mean, granted, it's not the same. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it's
I'm not a
definitely
big Scooby Doo fan. Like,
what?
as a kid, like I
Dude,
watched it,
I
it was
grew up-
cool. But then like they added Scrappy Doo. He killed the show.
Dude, but I grew up with you see the early 2000s when the live action and then Mystery Incorporated.
Oh no!
Dude, the only-
Mystery
the-
Incorporated
what
is
was the
chef's
With the
kiss.
live action with Buffy,
Yeah,
Sarah
yeah,
Michelle
yeah.
Gellar.
Oh, yeah,
That's
she
the only
was-
reason I watched that movie.
I'll be
I
honest
had a
with
big
you.
old crush on Sarah Michelle Gellar, man. Like,
She was great.
Listen, well, the thing is that James Gunn wrote the script for that movie.
Oh,
and
James
so,
Gunn did, huh?
Yeah, so that like a lot of people, there's a slide there because I like the dude. Like I was like, man, I really like James Gunn when I saw him in Guardians of the Galaxy. But then I was like, why? I was thinking about the Scooby Doo movie. I was like, why do I feel like that looks familiar? I was like, who wrote this? And I was like, James Gunn
That's
wrote
hilarious.
this. And I was like, oh, that actually makes a lot of sense now because when you look at like the character development,
Yes, the way he does it. Is
yeah, it's very similar.
That movie was the. Oh,
I mean, like
man.
certain people that do that stuff, like they just have such good artistic styles.
So
but they're only good at like one style of movies or shows and stuff. Like look at Jerry Bruckheimer, War of the Worlds, Independence Day.
Yes.
Oh,
you know,
yeah, that's what
global
you're saying.
domination.
Yeah, only
now,
good at
granted,
that.
he also did Pirates of the Caribbean,
Yes.
which was a great series. You know, and I loved watching those. I thought those were absolutely fantastic movies. But his go-to is always these like what was the other one?
world-ending
World
things.
War Z. I think he
Yeah.
did as
Oh, he did
well.
World War Z.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's always the same. It's like, okay, the world's like
Yeah,
being
world's
overrun.
underground,
Like,
yeah.
Well, if you look at like Getty Tadakashiki, who's the creator of a lot of the Cartoon Network stuff, so he created Powerpuff Girls. No, his wife created Powerpuff Girls, but in Samurai Jack, he references Powerpuff Girls. If you guys don't realize, the dogs from Powerpuff Girls, like the ones that could talk,
Yeah,
they end
they're
up in
in?
episode 4 of Samurai Jack, where he's actually talking to those dogs. So those are the same dogs, and the town that he walks through in that
I'll have to
episode
rewatch
is
it, yeah.
Townsville.
That's insane.
Yeah, but he also he did Dexter's Laboratory.
Oh, Dexter was the shit.
Because Dexter did that like the halftime show where they had the 3 superheroes,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
he
yeah.
did Monkey. Like that was like
so I'm glad you brought up Powerpuff Girls because this brings me to something else I really enjoyed as a kid and even more as an adult is running gags. Like
What about him?
so, like the redhead chick in Powerpuff Girls, you
Blossom.
never see her face.
Oh, you're talking
no, the
about
mayor's
the
assistant.
mayor's secretary.
Miss Bellum.
Yeah.
You never see her face. They always cover it up with something like that. And like I love running gags like that because it's like infuriating, but at the same time it's so like satisfying.
The idea was that she was supposed to be a butterface.
Yeah.
That was the whole.
Oh, that's the whole thing about it.
So like when you see her face, they like reveal it in I think the movie or something. They like reveal her face once, and she's like super ugly face. So she's just hot from like the neck down. And the idea was that she's a her face, and the mayor, because he's so short, all he sees is
the body.
Is the butt in his face.
Oh, I see.
So
her
face.
But her face. Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
But I mean, like you look at like all these like the other running gags, so like movies and shows and TV, like like I said before, like Home
Shaggy's
Improvement.
Always hungry. Yeah.
Shaggy's always hungry, but like Home Improvement, Wilson never shows his face.
Yeah,
they are always hiding. You only see like from his nose up.
Yeah,
and like to me, that is just one. It's creative camera play, and it's funny the creative ways they come up with that stuff.
Yeah, a lot of sitcoms don't have that anymore. I'll say that. That's fair.
So
a lot of
like,
cartoons and stuff.
Like what you never know like what the last name of like half the characters are, or stuff like that.
I do think that's cool, but I do think after a while that people want to see the mystery.
Oh, they do, and that's kind of what keeps you engaged, especially like when they tease like maybe his face will be revealed this time or something like that.
Well, that really fell into like the live action. Like if you looked at like you're talking about Home Improvement, let's go into one of the other ones of that era, Full House.
Yeah,
like a lot of those type of gags with like the whole family dynamics with like for example, like especially early on, Jesse like gave off the indication that he would never have kids.
Yeah.
And then you go into like the later seasons where he eventually has kids. And he has the twins, and you're just like, oh my god, like those reveals or those like character development pieces are really, really important, especially like long-term medium where it's like, okay, it's episodic, but there is still character growth. For example, I know, like we talked about The Simpsons before, but like look at Family Guy versus like Bob's Burgers, for example.
Yeah,
I think Bob's Burgers characters have way more character development in the like 8 or 9 seasons than like Family Guy's overall family dynamics. Like, there's always like the let's go ahead and make fun of our daughter again.
Yeah, it's like but there has to be a certain
Family Guy,
where
South Park. It's the same thing. Like there's not a lot of character development, but I think that those shows don't focus so much on.
They're social parodies. They're focusing on the social parody that's relevant
of the goofy crap that's going on in the world.
Like Futurama was like really big with like that same sort of style.
Futurama was the shit too,
bro. even in those aspects of like not so much like a hidden feature or something like that, but it's like we knew Fry was going to get with Leela at some point.
Oh, bro,
like we knew. But how long did we have to wait for that?
Too long.
The end of the show where he officially
actually, I will say no, it wasn't too long because then it made it really worth it.
But you know what was sad though?
It's a good ending.
I will say that I liked how it ended. I loved and hated the fact they brought the show back.
Yes.
I think it. So my biggest thing is, so this kind of plays into like everything we've talked about, characters' deaths and cheating endings.
Yes.
Do you guys think that it feels cheap? Like for example, if Tony Stark came back to Marvel Universe right now, would you be happy or sad?
I'd be pretty. I wouldn't.
I'd be happy to see him.
The thing is, I know they're gonna do it because of the multiverse, and that actually. Hold on. Oh, yeah. Okay, now I think I have a topic for next.
We're going into Marvel next week.
No, multiverses and time travel shows. Stop doing it. Oh.
So
God,
I think multiverses
Sick
work
of it.
in some instances, like for example, in the crossover initiatives that we saw with Nickelodeon doing, where they were like crossing into. So, like for example, I think
crossovers work for that.
I think the Rocket Power crossover was really sick.
Rocket Power.
Yeah, I'm bringing them back, dude. So like Nickelodeon had like a diehard grip on me. I loved Cartoon Network, but I really think like
it's like Rugrats to Grown Ups, like
bro, like
Grown Ups, dude.
Yeah, or like Lizzie McGuire, As Told by Ginger.
Yeah,
like that
by Ginger.
Yeah, that was like the little red hair girl who like lived in like
the jungle.
No,
you're thinking of Pepper Ann.
Yeah,
or you might be thinking of Eliza Thornbury.
I think that's
Eliza Thornbury in the Rugrats crossover was huge. That was when they did that in the second movie. But it made sense because again, that's like I think it's by the same creator.
Yeah, I think the same art style. And
so usually, like whenever it's the same creator, them crossing,
they'll be like, "Let me slide that."
Yeah, let me slide those in. But like, so then let's talk about like diving into a little bit of a section here. What about crossover games? For example, Super Smash Bros. And then their alternates where they had PlayStations.
Yeah, that Metaverse Brawl.
Yeah, and then they had Nickelodeons.
Marvel versus Capcom.
Yeah.
Marvel vs. Capcom, the second one was good.
But I like crossover games like that because you always get into like, everyone has these debates. Who would win?
Superman
Batman
versus
versus Superman, or
Injustice tells you.
Spider-Man versus
Spider-Man
versus Batman, DC versus Marvel, different things like that. It's awesome when you see all these things, especially when Super Smash Bros. Like Nintendo, you got a great grip on that game.
Oh, they did
that
amazing,
thing.
yeah.
I really hope that
just wish
they continue to do the live action, like not live action, but like the 3D animations they did for
like the cinematic,
like the Mario movie they just dropped. Like I really hope. I know everyone was hating on it before it came out. I was a really diehard for because I've seen what they did with Dr. Seuss's World, and I was like, okay, Illumination knows what they're doing as an animation studio. I think that they did a really smart choice by choosing Mario first because one, it was one of their first choices, but like I also think bringing Legend of Zelda in first would have been probably a lot harder, or like
very hard.
Yeah, like imagine trying. Again, it's a classic adventure.
Make a lot of money though.
So now that they've done it, I think if they go into and they build that cinematic universe, like slowly build it out.
Yeah.
But Illumination does it because it's like they now have
like
a partnership
Smash
with
Bros. Movie,
a
I think.
Smash Bros. Movie, bro. 100%. That will be like the next big thing. But also like they talk about like anime worlds, right? Like. They've done a lot of anime crossover games like that Jump game.
That was shit.
It was shitty. It's shitty done, but I really liked the concept.
Oh no, the concept's super cool. Yeah,
and that goes back to what Cody was saying about like superheroes or whoever.
Seeing it, because then you could be like, oh yeah, like you said, you can see like, oh, Batman versus Spider-Man. That makes it cool. Yeah,
like, and it's like you can play it out, because I mean, like sometimes like a character has like a really great ability that would be effective against this guy, but then this dude comes in and is like, yeah, man, that don't work on me, which is what I always enjoy because like otherwise you get back into those battle arc mangas of stuff like that, of like, oh, this is Luffy, oh, this is Goku, this is
but power
super
scaling,
strong.
right?
Power.
So
scaling,
that's really like what I think is the hardest part about building these games, right? Like I think that the way that Nintendo does it is really smart because everyone is like
strong as hell.
No, well, they're all like essentially the same power level. No character is ultimately busted. But if like we went into like for example, Superman rules versus Batman. It should be like the moment the fight starts, if this was a real fight, Batman is going to hold up the kryptonite the whole fight, and he's going to just start wailing on Superman.
Yeah.
And it's like, or Superman's going to get to Batman before he opens up the thing, and he's going to kill him right away. Like, there is no way that a fight between those two happens where Batman beats Superman and he doesn't have kryptonite.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's very true.
But, like, for example, if we go into, like, the anime side of it, right? Like, if we're going to the anime, like, video game multi-crossover, Luffy and Naruto... Sure, like there's
no, Naruto's killing, bro.
No. What I'm saying is, there's arguments that like depending on where we're at, because again, Naruto at its peak isn't where Luffy's at yet.
That is true. Yeah,
that is true. Koda said that he is only a third of the way through, and there are 1,072 episodes.
Okay, yeah, that guy needs to hurry.
But you said, like he just hit Gear 5 in the anime.
That's insane. Hold on, he's only that can't be.
He said he's only a third of the way through.
No, this was just this is like pre the story. The story now starts. So everything up until this was just basically like
world building. That's it.
Yeah,
that's insane.
Because remember, Luffy always said he wanted a crew of 10 people. And he just got to 10 people with Jinbei.
Yeah,
that's insane.
So I think again, like their power levels are about the same, but then you put in Goku, especially Goku now with Ultra Instinct and like everything. There's no way that Goku doesn't just absolutely hammer Naruto.
Yeah,
or
that's very true.
And then like Ichigo, even Ichigo, I would say is more on par, like top tier Ichigo from the anime is more on par with like Goku in that instance of the crossover where it's like because Ichigo's so fucking fast that it's like he might be able to keep up with Goku's speed, but Goku lands one hit on Ichigo.
Yeah, he's just dead,
and then he's knocked out. But then Ichigo's gonna go do like a 12 hour like training session in a metabolic time chamber or something. He's gonna be like, all right, Goku,
now you're dead.
I am the dude who literally is the king of comebacks, and I'm getting that ass.
Makes sense, yeah.
Well, I mean, and that's like when we were talking before about like power arcs and power leveling and stuff like that. Yeah. So if you can go back and watch Dragon Ball Z over again, Raditz comes to Earth. He has his little scouter. He scouts them. Goku and Piccolo's power is like 330 and 320. Then they go up to 1,200, and oh my god, 1,200's huge. Well, then
over 9,000.
I know. I wonder what
then
they
you go to
are.
Raditz,
Yeah,
then
like,
you're not Raditz. Then you go to Nappa and Vegeta, and it's over 9,000. Then it's 15,000. It's 20,000. You know, in that fight.
yeah.
Then Goku lands on Namek after his training at 100 times gravity, and it's 125,000.
Yeah, and you're like,
You're like, literally 80 episodes ago, we were at 300. Now we're at 120,000.
which is insane.
Then Frieza's over 1 million. You know, then you get into like the Boo saga.
yeah, so it's like
where
they're
he's
probably
like,
billions. Yeah.
he was like he can destroy the planet like
probably
15
trillions at that
times.
point.
You know?
Well, and then you look at like Naruto even, right? So like Naruto, like we get into like the end of the Tsunade, like the Eye Jutsu arc or whatever.
Oh god, yeah.
Yeah, where it's like infinite Tsunade or whatever it is.
Infinite.
I forget-
Infinite Genjutsu for as long as you got it. or some bullshit.
And they get the Six of Sage Paths like split ability.
I
or whatever.
hated that. That's,
But at that point it was like
that shit pissed me off.
well, and that's why when it,
Madara should have been the main villain.
well, yeah, and the thing that kind of made me mad though is like when you got into Boruto, right? And people were like,
don't even bring that
and then no, right? But that was that's where the issue with power scaling comes into
Yes,
play.
because-
is once you have someone at that power level, anytime you bring someone else, they either have to meet that current power level or you have to change the rules.
Yeah.
Like they had to do with Naruto and Boruto. Essentially, they had to basically be like, "Hey, bro, I know you were this strong."
Yeah, but we're gonna nerf
But
the
now,
fuck out of you.
but now we're gonna basically put you in a video game montage where we're gonna beat your ass back down to level 1.
See, the thing is, but then we go back to what to foreshadowing.
Yes,
Very important because if you foreshadow it, then all of a sudden it's fine. And then,
but it is
but
fine.
it's true though. It's
But
like
yeah.
because you set it up. You set up those early things, so it's like, oh, there's this one alloy that can cut through anything. And then it's like later your character's like almost invincible. Then it's like, remember that alloy that could cut through anything? Yeah, just went through his fucking heart. He's dead. You're like,
Well,
oh.
Or the story ends, and it's okay to let it end. For example, I do think that like sometimes if you have a power skill, like okay, granted, they're never gonna do it. We know who Superman is. We know his story.
Yeah.
Superman's story can be over. Like post Superman world.
Never.
But you see what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, I know
we
what
could
you
just let these, or even post Spider-Man, because Spider-Man's died like 100
Oh,
times.
they might as well just kill the character.
You see, but like because these franchises focus so heavily on these names, and they do bring in new name characters, whatever, and they just don't do nearly as well. But it's like allow the character to die. Like for example, of Naruto, and that's why they had to kill Naruto. Yeah, Naruto had to die for Boruto to be able to do anything. If not, game was over. Game.
Now
was
he's technically imprisoned. It's fucking so stupid.
Yeah, but you see what I'm saying? Like if we don't, so if when we go back to like power scaling, right? If you reach a certain point where there is no point to go up, and for example, and this goes into D&D too, when you reach a point where you're level 20 and you can't go any higher,
just end it.
You either end the game or you created a way that it makes sense for the characters to drop, and it's like you said, foreshadowing. So for example, if you know you want to continue a game past level 20 in D&D, what I would suggest is you foreshadow an event where it's going to be like, hey, everything that's happened was great, and this is experience, and you have all the experience that you gained from this event, or even the legendary weapons and armor. Now you're going to get pushed back. Now you're a god, pushed into this. Your soul gets pushed into a new body.
Okay, yeah.
And now you have to save the world in this new body because some deity basically kicked you out of the limelight or something.
Yeah, man, that'd be a great one. Like, say your soul gets kicked out.
Yeah.
And then you have to build up a new character to fight your old character.
And that's,
that'd be fire.
So, and
yeah,
that's like long-term D&D planning. Like there's stuff that I've done where it's like that's really like the end game is like the end game is you're eventually going to have that full circle effect. I did a campaign where the campaign started, the characters were already dead, and the end point of the campaign was supposed to be them rejoining back in the very beginning of the story, showcasing that life and death are the same,
or like a whole cycle.
And then you just went through the cycle of your entire life through death, and you lived that cycle. And you can change elements.
Yeah,
and so if they wanted to start, they go. But it's
like never ending.
But you would go back to level 1 from a level 20, and that's how you can like play into how things change. You made different choices second time around with a little bit more info.
Yeah, you're like, hold on, now I could do this. Yeah,
the dice at home, man. You're gonna be rolling nowhere near as much.
But I do think that that's like the unique aspects of crossovers is trying to, and that's where the conversation of always will be, who is stronger and why. But it's not something we're going to argue here today on this episode. As we're going to go ahead and close it up. We'll see you guys next week on the Resource Gathering.